As usual, before creating this week's video, I hopped onto YouTube to do a little research and see what I could find about resting in awareness. And as usual, what I found was rather too complicated. For me, anyway. I like simple. So let's spend the next few minutes simplifying this spiritual subject so we don't get all caught up in the intellect about it, and so that we can actually enter into the practical experience of it, which is what it's all about, really, isn't it? I'm Aliki, teacher, coach and entrepreneur, and YouTuber now. Let's begin with a wonderful quote by Dicken and Natasha Swerdloff from their book, Coming Home. Pure consciousness can also be called the meditative state. This state is not a doing or technique. It's your natural state of mind, free of your personal thinking. Realizing this allows you to relax into yourself as you are. Your natural meditative state of mind is relaxed, open, and alert. When you rest in this space, you may still have thought content passing through your mind, but these thoughts are not paid attention to or listened to. It may feel like you're the sky and your thoughts are birds flying through. Your inner sky is untouched by these birds. You see life directly, unfiltered by the distortions of your personal beliefs. You see life as it is, rather than as it isn't. It's a space within and beyond the personal, yet it's something that you already have and are. It's your true self. The more you touch this infinite, wide-open space, the more you realize the fact of its ever-present nature. It becomes more and more real to you. It becomes more and more familiar. It's a space where you can experience directly your true nature. It's the space where you feel most at home. When you rest in pure consciousness, you're able to simply be. This resting is not a doing, but a being. It's the most natural position you can be in. It's coming home. Here we see that resting as awareness means being in a sort of meditative state, and that it's a being rather than a doing. We get very caught up in the doing aspect of things, don't we? So we discover that resting as awareness isn't something that we do. Rather, it's a state of being. It's a meditative state. Resting as awareness is your natural state. Yes. Of course, I didn't find this out until I was in my 50s. But anyway, better late than never. It's your natural state. That means you don't actually have to do anything to get there. It's more of a letting go and relaxing into it, which we'll learn more about in a minute. So this meditative state of resting in awareness is a state of being relaxed, open and alert. So you're not half asleep, you're very alert to what's going on, but in a relaxed way. So we have this wonderful picture of these birds flying across the sky, signifying our thoughts. You know, the birds are going to be there. We can't stop the birds from being in the sky. It's the nature of life. It's the nature of our human experience to be thinking, for thoughts to be popping up all the time. But when we're resting as awareness, when we're in this meditative state, we don't pay attention to them. We just let them come and go. We just let them float by. In fact, any thoughts that you may have about this meditative state or resting as awareness being something difficult or being something that you can't do, I would say let those thoughts, those beliefs, those concepts fly by. Don't pay any attention to them, because they haven't helped you so far, have they? And we only want to pay attention to the helpful ones. Thoughts are still coming and going, but we're not giving them our attention, we're not taking them so seriously. And when we do that, then they stop bothering us so much. They stop appearing so real. And it's the same with the birds, Those birds can fly overhead, and I can be down here not paying attention to them. They're still there, but not bothering me anymore. And this is the key when it comes to your human experience, is you want to have a healthy relationship with your mind, right? Where you're not pushing thoughts away, you're not determined to rest as awareness. I'm going to do this. I'm going to stop those thoughts. It doesn't work like that. No, it's a relaxing into your true nature. And then we have this lovely picture of this still water with a very clear reflection in it. And this is a beautiful picture of being able to see life as it actually is, rather than through the filter of our beliefs, which distorts everything. I mean, if you think about it in your experience, how many times do you meet people and you just sort of mentally slap labels onto them and have all these judgments about them? And you create this image of this person who you don't even know. And yet that's enough, to distort reality and to create this separation between you and this fellow human being. We're constantly going through our day, seeing things in a distorted way, distorted through our beliefs. And these beliefs can be very deeply rooted, right? From our culture, our upbringing, our background. In this meditative state, you're seeing things clearly, not through your story of things, not through the story of what happened in the past. All those distortions settle down. All the waves on the water settle down, and we can see clearly again, a clear reflection of what is. We can have an awareness of our shared being, right? That's what Rupert Spira says love is. Love is the recognition of our shared being.
Resting in awareness is a state of being, not a state of doing. So you also surrender or relinquish the doer, that thing inside of you that's made up in your mind and is always trying to get something right, understand it, do it correctly, wants to know, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I perfect this? That's the doer. And the doer is always asking questions, mostly questions like, how do I do that? Well, the way you do resting as awareness is you relinquish the doer and just rest. In order to just rest as awareness, there's relinquishing the neurotic need to understand, and it's also letting go of the neurotic need to do. There's a time for understanding, certainly, and there's a time for doing, certainly. But in terms of what I'm speaking of, those are the first two things that need to be relinquished. Doing and the need, the desire to understand. And then there can be a resting. For most people, it becomes difficult to rest for more than a few moments because their mind keeps trying to entice them like a seductor or seductress. It says, if you really just understood this one last thing, then you would rest so much easier. You really would, I promise. Just think about this one thing. Have you noticed that? Solve this one thought, and then it'll be so much easier to rest as awareness. If resting as awareness actually happens, if it really starts to happen for you, then at some point it will dawn on you that you and awareness are not two different things. That you aren't actually somebody who's resting as awareness. That was actually some kind of notion, an idea of you. That actually awareness is much more what you are than all the ideas that you ever had about yourself in your life.
So Adyashanti also points out that resting as awareness, or resting in awareness, whichever you prefer, is also a being and not a doing. This is such an important point. He talks about surrendering the doer. Surrendering the doer. Now, you know who the doer is. It's that part of you that wants to know how to do everything and wants to understand everything and will not rest until those questions are answered. The thing is, in this digital internet age that we live in now, this can cause quite a problem because you can spend hours, days, and even years of your life searching for answers. He talks about the mind being like a seductress and, trying to pull you in. Come on, let's just find out about this one little bitty thing. Then you can rest as awareness. But first, let's just look into this. Let's just read this book because maybe the answer will be here. Or wait a minute, what if I take this course? This course might give me the answer that will finally satisfy me. Actually, no. I think I need to go on this retreat first, and then you get the idea, right? Adyashanti tells us, give up the need to understand. Give up the need to know. Give it up. That's all very well, you might say. But Aliki, how do I give it up? How do I let it go? I can't. I feel like there's always somewhere I need to get to. There's always something more I need to know. I feel like it's just around the corner, I'm so close. I want you to remember that resting as awareness means being not only in a meditative state, but in the surrendered state. The surrendered state is a state of surrender. It's where you're giving everything up. You're giving it up, but not in a negative way. This is actually a truly wonderful giving up because it's giving up the futility of the endless search and of spending the rest of your life, of wasting the rest of your life, really, trying to find peace and joy and fulfillment. Because everything you're looking for, you will find when you're resting as awareness.
I think in so many different ways, that's really what I teach and what I invite people back to, is just a place of rest. I invite people to really slow down and reconnect with the present moment, with where they are, to feel their feet on the ground, pay attention to their breathing, and take time to just feel their feelings, even if they're uncomfortable, to notice the thoughts swirling through their mind instead of getting so caught up in them. The core of what I teach is rest, how to rest. I've been asking the question, is it even a how? Is that even the right question? How can I rest? Really, what I'm inviting people to is actually the place deep within themselves, which is already at rest. The rest is actually already what we are on a much deeper level. It's not even the question of how can I reach this future place called rest. The mind even makes rest into a goal. Paradoxically, or ironically, we start struggling to rest. We even turn rest into a place to get to. What I'm suggesting is really that rest is our true nature. There's something deep within us that is at rest. It's always been at rest. Call it consciousness, call it awareness, call it our true nature, call it life itself. But it's what we are, and it's always at rest. It's always been resting. It's not a goal, it's our true nature. So if we're talking about rest, we're talking about who we really are, something that's constant, present, unchanging, unmoving, always with us.
Jeff Foster helps us to enter into this restful state by slowing down and reconnecting with the present moment. He says, feel your feet on the ground. It's always a wonderfully quick way, actually, to ground yourself, is to just simply feel your feet on the ground. It doesn't matter what you're wearing on your feet or where you are. You can always feel your feet on the ground. Be aware of your feet touching the ground. And pay attention to your breathing. You don't need to complicate this by counting. You don't need to change the way you breathe even. I do love, some deep breathing, but you don't need to do that. Just simply become aware of your breathing. So, feet on the ground and breathing. So simple, right? Then he says to notice your feelings. Notice the thoughts running through your mind. Noticing is a very empowering position to be in, because you're not being whisked away by them. You're not caught up in them. You're not engaged with them, trying to figure this out. You're simply noticing that these birds are flying through the sky again, right? What we tend to do is we reject them and we resist them, and then we try and push them away. That's quite an unhealthy relationship to have with your thoughts and feelings. We don't want to be rejecting them and resisting them and pushing them away and saying, I don't want you, go away. This is all part of what's inside you. And it's all about making peace with that. If you really want to rest as awareness, if you want to enter into the experience of resting as awareness, and I presume you do if you're watching this video, you need to let go of all of that and relax into what's actually here. Feet on the ground, breathing. And now we discover that there's actually a stillness here. Deep within your being, there's a stillness that's always here. There's a place of rest. The restful state. There's a place within that's already at rest. But the mind wants to make that into a goal. It wants to make it into something to conquer, to achieve, to reach. When? Not now. No. Sometime in the future. That elusive future. That place where we spend so much time trying to get to and planning to improve that we end up missing this moment, the present moment, the most important moment and the only moment that actually exists in reality. Psychologically, there are many other moments. So here's the good news. You don't need to struggle to rest anymore. No! You don't need to struggle to rest anymore. If you're always trying to get to that point of being able to rest as awareness, right? Because you've had enough of struggling through your life, then without realizing it, you're keeping yourself in this state of not enoughness. This belief that this, my life as it is now, isn't good enough. And that you don't want this, you want that. You want something that you believe you don't have. Question that thought very seriously. You want something that you believe you don't have. So you know me, I'm always talking about our true nature, right? Our true spiritual nature. And the importance of discovering who we really are. Because we don't want to spend the rest of our lives believing in this false sense of self, believing that we're the actor in the play, without realizing that there's an actor and there's a play. So how can we experience this deeper dimension of ourselves? How can we actually, finally, once and for all, rest as awareness? First of all, realize it's not a goal. Let the how become the now. Breathe into this moment. And let life envelop you into itself. When you become fully present with what's here with you now, you enter into that meditative state, that state of surrender, and the restful state. You rest as awareness by being the awareness that you are, by stepping off the hamster wheel albeit the spiritual hamster wheel of trying to find that rest, of believing that rest isn't available now, but sometime in the future, by being convinced that that rest lies on the other side of something that you have to do and achieve. You're never apart from this rest. You just got used to getting caught up in all the busyness, that's all. You're just doing things the way you were taught to do them. We spent our lives learning to achieve things in the future, to try hard to get somewhere, not to be satisfied with the way things are. I think most of us grew up in this way, so don't beat yourself up about it. Remember, let your how become the now. Notice your breathing, your feet on the ground. Remember always that resting as awareness is not a goal. It's not something to struggle to reach sometime in the future. Don't fall for that one anymore. It's all about this moment. Do let me know in the comments if you found this video helpful. I do hope you did, and consider sharing it with someone who you think might benefit from it. Thank you to all of you who take the time to leave me comments, because I truly do love receiving them and reading them. They make my day. I must do my meditation today. I must do my deep breathing today. Don't let it become something on your to-do list, because, well, I mean, you can if you want, but that's not the way I do it. And then we have this wonderful picture of the birds flying through the sky, and there's one right there. Jeff Foster helps us to enter into this restful state by... Oh, a beautiful feather just floated down.